board. Okay. So, for this recipe today, we are making fettuccine Alfredo. I have already gotten my pot on to boil because it does take a little bit of time. You guys will want to use this size pot. You should all have one in your kitchens. Okay, you want to use something that's big enough so that your pasta has enough room to move around as it cooks. Okay, I also have my colander ready so that when it's done, I can drain it, and then I'm going to put it back in the pot with some oil just so that it doesn't stick. I am using linguine for this recipe. You guys will be using fettuccine. I'm just running a little bit low on the fettuccine, so I want to make sure you guys have the same. Linguine is very similar to fettuccine. It's just a little bit less wide. So linguine is kind of like in between spaghetti and fettuccine. Fettuccine is more of a wider, flat noodle. Spaghetti is more of a round noodle, so linguine is kind of like halfway between the two. Okay, so I'm going to get my hands washed, as always, to get started. Okay, got my tea towel and my dishcloth here. Okay, and what I will need to do, so I've already got my water on boiling. You want to do that first because it does take a little bit of time for the water to get to boil. Okay, once that is ready, then I will add the pasta. You don't want to add your pasta before the water is boiling. I did have a student do that once, and that's okay. He had never made pasta before, so just remember that for tomorrow. Next, I'm going to dampen some paper towel so that I can put it under my cutting board. Okay, remember we do this so that it doesn't slip. And for this one, you can use either the wooden cutting board or the plastic, whichever you prefer. I tend to gravitate more towards the plastic. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to get our parsley. So parsley is great. It's a very low, oh, there we go. My pasta water is boiling. I'm going to pause. Okay, remember when we lift the pot lids off, we don't open towards us, we open away from us so that the steam can escape. So you guys are going to be using about 1/3 of a package of fettuccine. So what I'll do tomorrow is I will divvy that up for you. So it'll be about this much. One thing that I really suck at is figuring out how much pasta I need to use when I'm making it. I always make too much. However, I would always rather make too much than not enough, right? You never want to not make not enough. One cool thing that you can do too is you can take your pasta, twist it, drop it, and then it puts it in a nice kind of round shape so that it can spread out nicely. Okay, to stir our pasta, you want to use one of these, right? I don't know the technical term for it. I just call it like a pasta stir. Yeah, Kendra? Yeah. Mine doesn't have this at home, but this one does. It actually says it on it, 1 serving or 2 servings, so that's kind of cool. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your pasta gets all into the water there. And tomorrow when you're doing your lab, you want to make sure that there's somebody always watching the pasta and stirring it regularly. So I'm going to say stir every like 45 seconds to a minute. You don't have to time it, but you do have to stir it regularly because you don't want it to stick to the bottom. Another thing you probably want to do once it's boiled and the pasta's in there, turn it down just a little bit, maybe down to like 6 or 7, because you don't need it boiling like crazy. You just need it lightly boiling. Okay? So I'm going to let that boil away while I get myself started. So as I was saying, parsley is a very tender herb. It doesn't have a ton of flavor, and oftentimes it's used mostly as a garnish to add a little bit of greenery. So how we're going to take the parsley off of the stem here is you just pull gently down like that, and it takes the stem off. Okay, you can toss that in the garbage, and then you just have a little bit left. So for cutting herbs, so remember we're going to be using our chef's knife. Okay, you want to take the herbs. I'll probably be giving you guys a little bit more tomorrow. You're going to take it and put it into a bundle. I'm going to move the margarine so you guys can see. Okay, put it into like a little bundle so that's nice and tight. Okay, pinching the blade. Okay, make sure everyone's watching. Okay, and we're going to just gently cut through the herb like so. If you're not comfortable doing that, that's fine. What you can do is you can just put it in the middle of your cutting board, and remember, use that cross chop. So you put one hand flat on the knife and just go over it like that. Okay, that's the best way to do it, especially if you're not comfortable with using knives. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. You don't need to pulverize it, just in a nice little mince there. Okay, so now I have my parsley set aside. I'm going to stir my pasta now. Okay, again, every minute or so, give it a stir. Make sure you're getting all the way to the bottom so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. Okay, some people might add oil to their pot while the pasta is cooking. I don't like to do that because it can kind of make it, I don't know, it just cooks differently. I only add oil to it if I'm not ready to use the pasta right away after it's done cooking. So I'll show you that tomorrow, or I'll show you that later. Okay, the next thing we need is garlic. So how to open garlic, you can either take it and just give it a little smash on the top like this. This one is pretty, oh, it actually worked. It's pretty tight. And these cloves are a little bit small, but that's okay. There we go. So, oh yeah, these cloves are really tiny. So I might use 3 here instead of just 2. So with garlic, okay, it has this papery outside to it, so you want to peel that off. Sometimes it's annoying though, and you're like, I can't get this off, and it's all sticking to it. This one wasn't too bad. So the easiest way to do it is just take your garlic clove, put it on your cutting board, put your knife flat on top, and just give it a couple little taps, and then it usually just falls right out. Okay, that's one good tip. Okay, so I'm going to do that again with this one. Oh, that one, you can kind of feel it kind of like crushes itself, and then it should come out very easily, almost. Now, I hate touching garlic. You guys don't have to do this, but I find garlic stays on my fingers for like days and days and days, the smell. It's just my skin, I think. Some people it doesn't, like my husband can touch raw garlic and he can wash his hands and it goes away. So I'm gonna be using a fork to touch the garlic. You guys don't have to do this. I know it's a little bit strange. Okay, so when we're ready to mince our garlic, okay, I'm just gonna use my fork instead of my hand. And I'm going to take it and slice it first. Okay, just like so. So now you have like little pieces of garlic. Okay, do that with all 3 cloves. Again, just doing that rocking motion, like so. Okay, but what I want to do is mince this. Okay, so to mince your garlic, okay, you slice it first, and then you're going to do the cross chop over top. So again, pinching your blade, putting your hand flat on top, and going over it multiple times. Okay, it'll start to stick to your knife. You just scrape that off, bring it back into the middle. You'll notice I'm always bringing my ingredients back into the middle. Okay, and going over it again. And I'll probably want to do it one more time. Personally, I don't like big chunks of garlic in my food, so I like to do mine nice and small. Okay, just like that. And again, I'm going to grab a little bowl and scrape it into that, trying to keep my cutting board nice and clean. Now, if you're going to make this at home and you guys really like garlic, okay, and you got extra, you're more than welcome to do more than just 2 to 3 little cloves of garlic. You can definitely do like, 3, 4, 5 cloves of garlic, however garlicky you want it. Okay, giving my pasta a stir again. Okay, the next thing I need to do is get ready my ingredients that I'm going to use kind of as my flavoring and my color within my dish. So remember, we have broccoli to choose from or frozen spinach. So our frozen spinach comes in this little frozen cube, which is really nice. So I'm going to put this in the microwave just for a couple seconds and get that defrosted. Oh, there we go. Looks like a block of what? Wheat. Oh, great. Okay, while that's doing that, I'm going to give my broccoli a rinse. Okay, you always want to wash fruits and vegetables before eating them. And check my spinach. Okay, awesome. That's good. So what you'll want to do if you guys choose spinach is you'll notice that when I lift it up here, okay, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a bunch of liquid in the bottom. Okay, that's just water coming off the spinach. So what you'll want to do is put it, if somebody's not grossed out by this, okay, dump out the liquid, and then just squeeze the extra water out of it. Okay, just like that. And then it's ready to use. Give my hands a little wash. Okay. Give my pasta another stir. Now, do you guys know how to tell when pasta is done? You can throw it at the wall, although your parents probably wouldn't be very happy with that. Yeah, Naomi? Yeah, you can do that. The easiest way I find is to just take a piece out and give it a taste test. Have you guys ever heard the term al dente before? Yes. What is al dente? It's good. Yeah. Olivia? Yes. Yeah, it finishes cooking. So what you want is you want it to be like almost all the way, but you want it still just a little bit chewy. Okay, so I'm going to taste test it here. It's almost there. It's still a little bit too chewy, so I'm going to leave it in there for another minute. Because what happens is when you strain it, right, it's still hot, so it's still going to continue cooking. And then when you do add it to the sauce will heat it up again and continue cooking it a little bit more, right? So we want to make sure that we're not overcooking our pasta because then it gets kind of like slimy and really, really soft. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, I'm going to get my broccoli prepped. Just give my knife a little rinse so that it doesn't have the garlic on it. So if for those groups that have chosen, that are going to choose to do broccoli, what you're going to do, okay, is you're just going to cut off the little tree parts of the broccoli at the top. You can use the stalk, but for something like this, I find it takes a lot longer for the stalk to cook. So you just want to kind of use the tops. So I'm just going to use the tip of my knife, okay, and just cut the little trees off like that. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to toss that. And then if you want to keep it whole like this, you can. But what I like to do with my broccoli is just go through and give it one kind of rough chop. Okay, just like that. Okay, let me see if there's any other big pieces. Maybe just cut those in half. Okay, we still kind of want to see the broccoli. Okay, just like that. Okay, so we have it nicely, roughly chopped into kind of bite-sized pieces. If you pulverize broccoli a lot, it becomes like this little, just the little tips. You can, if you really want to cut it smaller, you can do that. That's totally fine. I'll leave that up to you guys as a group. Okay, giving my pasta a stir again. Okay, I'm going to give it another taste test. Okay, ooh, that's hot. Perfect. Okay. So when you are ready to strain your pasta, okay, put your colander directly into your sink. Okay, I have a bowl in here. I should get rid of that. Thanks, Nicola. Okay, put it directly into your sink. We're going to turn off the heat. Okay, making sure that these aren't hot. These might be hot. If they are, you'll want to use oven mitts. Okay, and you're going to dump, again, away from yourself. So don't do it like this towards yourself. You're going to do it gently away from yourself. Okay, just like that. Okay, give it a little shake. Get the extra water out. Okay, we're going to put it back in our pot. And I'm just going to add just a little bit of veg oil. You don't need a lot. Okay, that should be enough. Okay, set it back over here and give it a mix. Okay, to coat the oil. Okay, then we can just set it aside. Okay, now it's ready to go. You can put the lid like partially on. You do want to let the steam escape a little bit. Okay, and now it's ready to go. Okay, I'm going to get back to my sauce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my margarine, which I put right here. Okay, if you make this at home, you can make it with butter. And I'm going to be using this pan just because this is the one in our demo kitchens. Tomorrow, what you guys will be using is your largest skillet. Okay, the biggest one for your sauce. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on, get the right one, to about medium-high, maybe about medium heat or so. Oh, wait, hang on. I want both. Okay, and I'm going to grab my butter knife and my tablespoon measure, and I'm going to measure out 3 tablespoons of margarine. So we all know how to do this, right? Overfill, stuff it in. Okay, and you can just scrape it out. Overfill, squish it down, level it off. And my last one. So what we're doing here is we are starting our roux. Do you guys know what a roux is? Yeah, Kendra? Yes, you got the first part right. Butter and flour is what it is, yeah. So instead of a lot of Alfredo recipes require a lot of heavy cream, okay? It tastes great, that's for sure, but not necessarily the best for you. Okay, so what we're going to do with this recipe instead is we are going to use a little bit of butter or margarine, which is, you know, not the healthiest. However, what we're going to do is we're going to add flour to it, and that makes kind of a base for our thickener. And then what we're going to do for our liquid is we're going to mix chicken stock and milk together, and that's going to be the liquid for our sauce. Okay, at this stage, what we're going to do is we're going to add our garlic and our spinach or our broccoli, depending on what you guys are doing. Okay, so I'm going to add my garlic in here. And then I am doing both spinach and broccoli. You guys will just be doing one or the other. And what we're going to do is we're going to lightly cook it in the butter. So we don't want the heat too high because, have you guys ever had burnt garlic before? Overcooked garlic? No? It's gross. No. Garlic, when it becomes overcooked, gets really bitter tasting. Okay, so we don't want that flavor. So we're going to cook this at like about a medium just to get it started. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more butter just because I have a little bit more fillings than you guys will have. So I'm just going to grab. No, it'll be fine. Do you have a gas oven? Oh, okay. You do just have to be careful with it. Oh no, that's not good. So you'll notice what I'm doing is I'm mixing it frequently. Okay, so it kind of evens the heat all the way through. And we're just giving a light cook, light saute to these items. So we're going to do this for a couple of minutes. And then afterwards, okay, once it's just started kind of the cooking process and it's getting there, we're going to add our flour. So we need 3 tablespoons of flour. What will happen here, whoops, is it will become kind of like thick and chunky. That's okay. Okay, I'm going to turn this down a little bit so it doesn't burn. Okay, that's almost done. While I'm waiting, I'm going to measure out my liquid because I'm going to need that very soon. So I need, I think it's 1 cup of milk and 1 cup of chicken stock. If I can get this apart. Yes. 1 cup of chicken broth, 1 cup of milk. So measuring at eye level as we do. Okay, this is a 2-cup measure, so what I can do is I can just do 1, and then I can do the second right on top. So 1 cup of milk. This is the chicken stock I was talking about. And you can just pour it right on top. Perfect. 1 cup of that. Okay, I'm going to add my flour now. So again, heap, tap, scrape. 2 and 3. Move this out of the way. Okay. So what's going to happen here is you're going to see that it kind of starts to solidify. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to add just a little bit more because I did add more butter. So I'm at a low temperature right now. That's where we want it, so it doesn't burn. And we're just going to cook it like this just for a minute. Okay, then I'm going to add my liquid. Okay, at this stage, once we're ready to add the liquid, okay, we don't want to boil the milk. Okay, do you know what happens when you boil milk? What it does is it separates. Okay, so the curd from the whey kind of separates and it becomes a little bit chunky. So we don't want that. So we want to keep it at a low temperature. So at this stage, this is where we need some patience. Okay, this is quite liquid, as you can see. So what's going to happen is, as it heats up, okay, the roux mixture, that butter and flour, is going to thicken this sauce. Okay, so it just needs some time. So this is where we need our patience tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just going to let that, mixed it kind of all in as best as I can. Okay. And I'm going to put it to about medium right now. We don't want this rolling boil though. Okay, a rolling boil is going to potentially separate your sauce and it's going to have like little white bits through it. I have done it myself at home. Okay, it happens. So you do just have to be careful with it. And you're just going to give it a gentle mix every so often. And there's something in here. Take that out. There we go. Okay, I can already see it is starting to solidify a little bit more. You will notice it very slowly. So do you know how you can tell when your sauce is ready, when it's thick enough? And it's nice and thick. What I always recommend is if you can drag your spoon through the sauce and you can see the pan underneath, okay? And the sauce kind of slowly comes back in towards the middle, that's when you know it's ready. Yeah. Okay, it's starting to boil a little bit, so I'm going to turn it down. So I can already start to see, I don't know if you guys can see in the image, but as I pull my spoon across, I can start to see the pan underneath. Can you guys see that in the screen? Yeah. So it's already starting to thicken, which is excellent. So if you do choose to do the spinach, it does tend to make the sauce a little bit more green, which is fine. Okay, notice how it's starting to boil? Okay, we don't want that. I'm going to just take it off for just a sec. Let that cool down. You might need to do that tomorrow. I find these elements stay really, really hot. Okay, we don't want it to stay too hot for too long because we don't want it to boil. Okay, the next thing that your recipe says, I'm just going to let that sit for a second, is to add salt, pepper, and your Parmesan cheese. Now, the chicken stock that we are using, okay, it's 30% less sodium. I tend to use at home one that has no salt added, so I would definitely add salt. However, the 30% less sodium is still going to be a lot of salt. So what I would recommend is add your pepper and your Parmesan cheese first, mix it all together, taste test it, and then if you think it needs salt, then add the salt. Okay? Don't add the salt without taste testing it. I always recommend tasting things before you add salt and seasoning. Exactly. You can always add more, you can't take away. So we need a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Okay, I'm not a big fan of pepper, so I'm just going to add a little less. And then I'm going to make sure we have enough for tomorrow, so I'm going to add a little bit less Parmesan. Come on. Whoops, I got some Parmesan on my element. Get off. Okay, I'm going to bring this back onto the heat. So adding the cheese will also help the sauce to thicken too. You guys can probably start to see the sauce is a lot more thick now. You guys can see I'm slowly pulling the spoon across, and you can see the sauce, or see the pan underneath. This cheese is very stringy. Okay, this is the stage where I want to taste test it. Okay, the other way that you can check if a sauce is thick enough is use the back of a spoon, and if it stays on like that, okay, that's when you know it's thick. Okay, blow. Yeah. I don't think it needs any salt. You guys can taste test tomorrow and see for yourselves, but I'm not going to add any extra salt to that because the Parmesan has salt and the chicken stock has salt. Okay, I would say that that's probably thick enough. So as I pull my spoon across, you can really see the bottom of the pan for quite a while. Okay, that's what we want. Turn the heat off here. And now I'm going to add my pasta right into this pan. So this is why we want to use the largest skillet that we have. Okay, I think I made too much pasta again, but that's okay. Okay, dump it right in. Okay, didn't really stick to the bottom, which is good. And now I can use this to mix the pasta in with the sauce. So you just kind of lift it and move it around. So you guys can see that there's lots of sauce, lots of pasta, so there will be plenty for you guys to have tomorrow. So make sure you come hungry tomorrow. If you don't think you're going to be hungry during class, okay, bring a container, and then maybe you can eat it at lunchtime. All right, so it is nice and mixed. So I'm going to serve it up with my parsley so that you guys can see how to plate it nicely. There's a couple ways that you can plate pasta. You can just grab it and put it on. The other way you can do it is with tongs. Let me see if I can find some tongs. This is what you'll see in the restaurants. So what you do is you kind of grab your tongs and twist the pasta. It's not working. It's a little thick. I think I grabbed too much. I'm going to do this. Okay, and then you kind of put it in the middle, just like that. And then you can sprinkle on your parsley. Okay, just a little bit on top, like so. All right, if you are making this at home, you can also add more Parmesan on top. We don't have a ton of extra, so we're not going to do that tomorrow. But ta-dum, there you go. There is your fettuccine. Thank you, thank you. All right, I'm going to